And happy Monday, everybody. This is the Freedom Club podcast. I am your very grateful, very happy, very excited host, Curt Mercadante. I hope you had an incredible weekend in which you were mentally and physically present with your family, your friends, and yourself. And this is your weekly reminder that if you wake up Monday after Monday with a sense of dread, with that tightness in your chest, because as soon as that alarm goes off, you feel a loss of sense of control in your life, then it is time to make a change and it's time to break free to the freedom lifestyle. Which is a great segue because today's episode is brought to you by my 30-day Total Freedom Lifestyle Transformation course. It's an online course. If you go to curtmercadante.com right now, you can find it. It's a 30-day online course. Every 5 days, you unlock a new module with a video from me, actionable steps you can take to start adapting what I call the Freedom 5. They're the 5 pillars of living the freedom lifestyle. Superpowers, working within your strength zone. Vision, creating that clear vision for your life. Alignment. Forget work-life balance. It's about aligning the 3 facets of your life: family, self, work. Outcomes. Living an outcomes-focused life in which you reverse engineer that life vision, which is your life outcome, down to every day so that you identify those 3 outcomes to win the day. And they all lead up to living with a sense of flow each and every day so that you're not grinding every day, but you're flowing like unimpeded water. And speaking of outcomes, one of the key foci, I don't know what's correct there, to leading an outcomes-focused life is identifying the bullshit inputs in your day that you can tear away so that each and every day you're living the straightest, shortest, simplest route to your outcomes. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about how to do that by identifying what I'm introducing a new term to your lexicon here: minimally viable inputs. So thank you for being here. You're going to find out what that term means right now on today's episode of the Freedom Club Podcast.
Welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast, where we strive to pull you out of your life of quiet desperation, out of your comfort zone of misery, and propel you into a life of freedom and fulfillment. And now, here's your host for this journey, international speaker and coach, and serial entrepreneur, Curt Mercadante.
So, anyone who's involved in product development, who's in the startup realm or has any good business sense, has heard the term minimally viable product. And what that is, Steve Jobs always said he doesn't want to wait till a product is perfect to start shipping it, to start selling it. What are the minimal amounts of features you can have on your product to take it to market? Because you take it out, people learn, they give you feedback so you can learn about what you need to add to your product. You need to learn what to fix. And by the way, also it provides you the opportunity then to sell upgrades along the line. I'm an Apple guy, so I have to buy those upgrades as I go, right? But you upgrade it. So minimally viable product. Apple, Steve Jobs, very famous for doing this, right? But I'd like to introduce you to a term today, and it's minimally viable inputs. So as you know, and as you've heard me say, I lead an outcomes-focused life, and I coach others to lead an outcomes-focused life. The definition of productivity isn't just getting more shit done. A lot of people think that, right? They try to cram more and more stuff into a day. They get up earlier, they work later, and they say, I'm being so productive. That's not productivity. The real definition of productivity is getting more of the right outcomes achieved with less effort. Or as I like to say, finding, plotting, and living the straightest, shortest, simplest line to your outcomes. That's true productivity. And it's a key to living the freedom lifestyle and a key to living a life of fulfillment. Unfortunately, a lot of our days are based on inputs that don't necessarily get us any closer to our outcomes. So on Tuesday, I worked a little bit in the morning. I had a podcast interview after that. I went for a walk with my family, and then I went on a lunch date with my wife. I came back. Listen, there were 50 to 100 things I could do. I could have filled my day with inputs, right? I could have wasted my time on bullshit inputs. But I identify those 3 things I have to do to win the day. For me, I identify 1 key work outcome, 1 key family outcome, and 1 key self outcome, right? And I'm running a major business. I did this while running 3 businesses all of a sudden at the same time. So if you say, oh, I got kids, oh, I'm so busy. Listen, I want you to take the word busy and throw it in the trash. I want you to erase it from your vocabulary, right? Because busy is a choice. Some people use busy as a badge of honor. They use it as something to hide behind. But how you spend the time in your life is entirely up to you. Your entire life is a choice. And if you don't agree with me on that, if you can't quite adopt that mindset, then you're stuck in a scarcity mindset, and you have to have one of abundance, in which you realize that you are in control of your life and you are in control of your time and how you spend that time. So when people tell me they're too busy, you're full of shit. Okay? You are just busy is another way of saying how you're prioritizing your time. I set 3 key outcomes for the day. It allows me to lead the freedom lifestyle. I work within my strength zone. I invest in people to help me manage my weaknesses. I delegate, I outsource, I do those types of things, right? But often we fill our days with just a whole bunch of inputs. Hey, what'd you get done today? Oh, I got a huge to-do list of 30 things. Most of those are bullshit inputs that are not bringing you any closer to your outcome, right? And I define inputs as those universal truths, I put that in quotes, handed down from generation to generation that may or may not make any fucking sense given the current circumstance. Like I like to say, like 90% of meetings are bullshit inputs. Jobs requiring you to be in your seat at 8:30 in the morning. I've told the story before, but I once had a client actually work there as well, that at like 8:25 in the morning, they'd have their HR manager go from cubicle to cubicle and office to office to make sure that their administrative staff and their vice presidents alike, some are making $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year, to make sure they're all in their seats at 8:30, rather than judging those people on whether or not they are empowered to use their strengths and their superpowers to achieve key outcomes. Instead, they're judged on a bullshit input like, what time are you in your seat? They also have an endless amount of useless meetings. Those are inputs, right? But not all inputs are BS. And the key to living the freedom lifestyle and the life of fulfillment and being actually truly productive, finding that straightest, shortest, simplest line to your outcomes, is finding the minimally viable inputs required to get you to your outcomes. First thing that comes to mind is time at the gym. And a lot of people will tell you, you got to spend an hour at the gym, or you got to spend 45 minutes or an hour running every day to burn those calories, blah, blah, blah. I won't get into why the calories in, calories out isn't as important as some other things in terms of your health and your nutrition. But I will say this. I used to work out a year ago. It just kept creeping up, right? Because once you add an exercise, then it's harder to take it away. It's like that in life. Once you add an input, it's harder to take it away, because then it becomes habit and it becomes expectation. It's like, well, why do you have the Monday morning staff meeting? Well, because we've always had the Monday morning staff meeting. It becomes almost impossible to pry that staff meeting from the schedule, right? It's like that at the gym, for instance. And so I kept adding things, and it kept creeping and creeping. It was like an hour and 20 minutes. And finally, I was like, I hated going to the gym. Now, my workouts are 20 to 30 minutes. I found the minimally viable number of exercises I need to achieve my goals. And in fact, I improved my goals greatly. Actually, right now, I focus on 4 key outcomes that I've set for the year related to bench press goals, plank, and pull-ups. And I also do air squats while I do it. On the other days, I box, I have fun, I do a lot of play, I do that type of stuff. I'll go to the gym, or I'll go to the beach and I'll do sprints. But I find, listen, if I'm in a hurry, I can do a 15 to 20 minute workout and get excellent results. Usually that sweet spot's about 20 to 30, but I find those multi-muscle exercises that work out the entire body, the minimally viable number of exercises to get there. So you can apply this to your days and to your life. What are the minimally viable number of inputs? Not even number of inputs. What are the minimally viable inputs that you need to achieve to get you to your outcomes? Many of you may have heard of the Pareto principle. And that is, a lot of people also know it as the 80-20 rule. Find those 20 of things that get you 80% of the way there. Find those 20% of the inputs in your day that account for 80% of your outcomes. Then that other 80% of the inputs that's just wasting your time and not getting you any closer, throw them in the trash. Get rid of them. Now, if you're in a corporate job, a 9 to 5, and you're listening to this and you're saying, right, but all the inputs in my day are driven by my boss. Couple things. One is I once had a client who explained in a new job, he moved all the way across the country to take a new job, and they were requiring him at one point to attend 6 days worth of meetings that he said were completely useless. And they actually extended his day because then he needed to stay later to get his actual work done. He actually just stopped going to the meetings. You know what happened? Nothing. Because his boss saw that he was actually more productive by not going to the meetings. He set an example in doing that. Now, not everyone can do that. He did it. I would argue that more people could do that if they tried. But if you're in a job in which they are not giving you the leeway to use your strengths to achieve key outcomes in the best way you know how, and it's leading to a sense of overwhelm, it's leading you to work late, it's leading you not to be mentally and physically present with your family, with yourself, and there's no way around it, then it might be time to find a new job. If you're not leading a life of freedom and fulfillment, make some changes in your life. If you are an entrepreneur, you are someone who started a business because you wanted that sense of freedom, but you feel like you've built a prison instead of a business, it's likely that you were in the same position I was in about 5 years after founding my agency. The money was great, but I was overwhelmed because I was filling my day with bullshit inputs created by habit, by expectation. You know, when I first started my agency, I'd get my shit done by 11 or 12. And I didn't know what to do with the rest of my day because I hadn't identified those other things that give me fulfillment in my day related to my family and myself. So I would just fill the day and into the night with bullshit inputs that didn't get me any closer to my outcomes. Now, some of you are listening. No, everything I do is so important. It's not. I guarantee you. Start keeping a time log of all your stuff. I had one CEO who did that. And he was spending like 3 hours on a day on LinkedIn. He had a recruiting firm. And I said, you're the CEO. Act like it. I'm not saying that your team doesn't need to be combing LinkedIn or whatever for candidates, etc. But why are you, the CEO, doing it? Trust me, as a recovering serial micromanager, I know of what I speak. So minimally viable inputs. If you have any sense of business acumen, you do know the term minimally viable product. This takes the same theory, the same principle, and applies it to your day. It applies it to productivity, applies it to the freedom you have in your life. And if you are filling up your day with a whole bunch of inputs that are bloated, that are wasteful, that aren't getting you to your outcome in the shortest, straightest, simplest line possible, then you need to find the minimally viable inputs to get you to your outcomes that allows you to have a sense of freedom and fulfillment in your day, that allows you to flow, that allows you to work within your strength zone, that allows you to have that alignment between your family, yourself, and your work that works for you. And those are the ingredients, my friends, to living the freedom lifestyle. So with that, this is the Freedom Club podcast. Thank you for listening.